Julian Alvarez came on as a second-half substitute, but it was his post-match interview which has caused headlines, particularly in Spain. Asked about his future, I don't think it's the right moment to talk. Get ready for this. I don't want to hide. I tried to be an honest person. I spoke with the people at Atletico who I needed to speak with. I think the best thing for everyone is a transfer. I want to fulfil my dream. Atleti responded, get ready, there is no amount of money to which Barca can buy Julian. He will not be transferred to Barcelona. Either they pay the release clause, 500 million euros, or there is no deal. We've already seen how Barcelona operates in the past, such as when Atleti were preparing for their Champions League tie against Juventus, and Barca were promising commissions to Griezmann's sister, his family, and the player himself. For more on this, to weigh in on the soap opera, Alex Kirkland is here. Very much a new twist. It's the first time we've heard Julian Alvarez say officially he wants out, Alex.
Exactly, Dan. He hadn't been explicit about wanting to leave until this point. He sort of did a dance all of last season where he wouldn't say he wanted to go and he wouldn't say he wanted to stay either. There was that one famous quote from him during the season when he was asked about his future and he said, "What do I know?" And you kind of think, well, if you don't know, who does? But he's come out now and made this statement. Now, he's still left some doubts there. Because like you said, he said, I want to fulfill my dream. I think the reporter in the mix zone didn't quite hear him, didn't get to follow up and say, well, what exactly is your dream? We understand it's Barcelona. The problem that Barcelona have got is that, as you say, Atleti are not happy with them. They've already come out publicly, on social media and criticised them about the way they've conducted themselves in this pursuit. And the other big problem that Barca have got is that Real Madrid, remember, very publicly and mischievously made this 150 million euro bid for Julian, which was rejected. That sort of set the standards of what the kind of money that they've rejected already is. And so Barca aren't going to get Julian for less than that, but Barca can't reach that sort of level anyway. So I think we're going to see a standoff. I think it's going to be a long summer. I think prepare yourself. This is the saga that's going to run and run because, like I say, Barca can't afford that sort of money. They were thinking something like 100 million, and Atleti have already rejected publicly 150. So let's see where this goes. Let's see how far it goes. Let's see if Julian, gets back after the World Cup and goes back to training, or we've seen this before in these kind of standoffs, refuses to train. All these sort of possibilities are out there because right now it's hard to see exactly what the way out is.
Alex, this can't be the first time that Barcelona have heard the news that Alvarez wants to leave. So given that, why sign Anthony Gordon?
Yeah, I think this, in terms of Barca, I think this is almost, and this is why Atleti are so annoyed, a kind of a coordinated, the latest step in trying to make this move happen. First they registered their interest, Atleti came out and responded. Now it's, the next step is the player comes out and says, I want to go. And then we take it from there and we keep trying to increase the pressure and keep trying to make this happen. Like you said, they spent big on Gordon. That was a bit of a surprise how much money they were willing to spend on Gordon. Of course, not the same kind of profile as Julian, not quite the same position, although they can play in the same position. Julian can play out wide, Gordon can play through the middle. Really, Gordon's more of a winger, Julian's more of a centre forward. But you're right, that's certainly, spending that money on Gordon, committing that money to Gordon has restricted them a little bit in terms of what else they can do. They've still got significant money to spend potentially, I think, but maybe not the kind of money it would take to get Julian.
Alex, we've seen Griezmann leave and come back. He was forgiven by the fans. We've seen fans burning Julian Alvarez T-shirt. That's very productive, isn't it? Today, is there a chance that he can be forgiven by the supporters?
I think it's a different relationship, though, because the relationship with Griezmann was much longer. And the fans actually have been pretty patient with Julian, I think. He underperformed last season. He delivered in moments, but not consistently. And the fans, they stuck with him. They were patient, despite the fact that he wasn't committing his future publicly to the club. They kept supporting him. I think they'll be deeply, deeply unhappy with what he's come out and said now. Griezmann, look, that process took time. Even when he came back, and he came back, like I say, more of a club legend than Julian is, because he'd been there longer, scored more goals, delivered more on the pitch for Atleti. Even that for Griezmann took some time. Some fans had to be won over. Remember, when Griezmann left at the end of the season, Griezmann came out again in his last big speech on the pitch and apologised once again for leaving. that shows how deep sort of the scars were of that whole saga. Julian hasn't got nearly as much credit in the bank as Griezmann. I think it would be more. Like, nothing's impossible in football because we see these things happen all the time. But I think it would be really quite difficult, I think, for Julian to win back the sort of affection that Griezmann did.
Alex, I'm thinking of the player power that there seems to be more maybe now. Last season, the big talking point was Isak going to Liverpool. Similar sort of theme in La Liga as well.
Yeah, and Atleti are furious. Talking to ESPN colleagues tonight, they are deeply unhappy with Barca. There have been some suggestions they might even look at, reporting Barca to FIFA for their pursuit of Julian, because they feel like, and they made this very public. Remember all those tweets that Atleti put out when the interest was first kind of made public a few weeks ago? And Atleti are really unhappy with the way that Barca have conducted themselves. Atleti are in this difficult position, a big club, huge club, big fan base, very successful, but still next to Real Madrid and Barca, they don't have the same kind of power, the same kind of appeal, and they still lose some of their best players to Barca. And like I say, it was really played out on social media with those tweets that Atleti put out when this interest was first registered, but just displaying how annoyed they were but like I say, they've had to kind of deal with this over the years. You mentioned the Griezmann case. There are other cases as well. They have lost their best players. It was shown as well with, when Real Madrid came in and made that bid and how they responded as well. It's the position that they find themselves in terms of the hierarchy, I think, in the La Liga.
Alex, am I being an idiot if I was to suggest this is a lot of fuss over a player who wasn't really great last season?
I would never suggest that you are an idiot, Dan. I would never say that. I wouldn't ever think that.
Yeah.
On air.
Oh, boy.
But I mean, look, you're right in terms of his performance. You're right. He wasn't great. He had, like I said, he had flashes. He had moments. You think about some of the brilliant goals that he scored in big games. But often, he was underwhelming, and he was a big part of the reason that Atleti in the end couldn't put together a proper challenge for big trophies, because their star player didn't deliver consistently, and Diego Simeone, the coach, defended him time and time again. When that criticism came in, the coach, and like I said, and the fans as well, I think, they stuck with Julian, and that's why I think this will really hurt.
How much of an upgrade is it for Lewandowski, who is veteran past it? He's left, obviously. Julian Alvarez come in to take that role.
He's not as good a finisher as Lewandowski. He's more agile than Lewandowski was in the last two seasons. And can he fit into the role as the out-and-out centre-forward? Because I always think he drifts out into wide areas at times, drops into midfield. But this won't end up well for anybody. No. It never does. You mentioned it perfectly. Isak, last season. Newcastle knew they were eventually going to sell him, but they almost made so he wasn't training. He was saying he wasn't going to train. Yep. Then when he goes to Liverpool, we'll pay over the odds for him. He can't play well because he's unfit. And then when he does play, the crowd are thinking, well, we've just spent a fortune on this player. This will play on for quite some while, and nobody will come out of it well, unfortunately.
Just a reminder, as we say, thank you very much, Alex. You're in Houston, yeah? Portugal tomorrow?
Yes, in Houston, listen to Roberto Martinez speak just now in a presser, and going to the Portugal game tomorrow to see if Cristiano Ronaldo can score some goals. Let's see.
Roberto Martinez, I imagine, said that Cristiano Ronaldo has told me he's starting.
Yes, he defended Cristiano. Shocking development there, yeah.
Thank you very much, Alex. Much appreciated. Just a reminder to keep up to date with all the latest transfer rumours that are coming out of this World Cup. Be sure to go to Transfer Talk over on the website.